Joe Laurinaitis, the pro wrestler known as Animal and the Road Warrior, knew Benoit for 21 years and joins us now. Thanks a lot for taking the time. Appreciate it. All right. So far, everyone we've talked to said never could have seen anything like this, never was a violent guy in his personal life, didn't know him to be taking steroids. Let me start, first of all, on the issue of his personal life. Did you know that he was having marital problems?
You know, Dan, I didn't know that Chris was having personal problems. You know, you got to understand, when you become a top guy in the professional wrestling business, it is a very private club. Very few guys know what your personal life is all about. And I want to make it clear right now, I'm not here representing the WWE. I work for DeBartolo Sports and Entertainment right now. I'm here on behalf of the wrestling community. It's a tragedy. No way to get around it. I mean, did anybody see anything like this coming? Absolutely not. We have to keep in mind that Chris has 2 other children still, you know, around in Canada, and I think we have to walk on eggshells here, man. Those 2 poor little kids up there, man. You know, we don't want to hurt their feelings either. This is an absolutely horrible day.
I think
for professional wrestling.
I think that's well said. Let me ask you this: you had mentioned to one of our producers hearing about a safety deposit box that his wife may have left. Showing some of the abuse?
You know, Dan, there's all sorts of speculation. Of course, you know, being one of the top guys in our business and being one of the top tag teams in our sport, I hear everything, whether I want to hear it or not. People are calling me left or right. My phone's been ringing off the hook. There was a rumor going around that, you know, there must have been some spousal abuse in the past. I've even heard the DA down in Georgia say that on TV, and some, you know, the sheriff say that too when I was watching the news clip.
All right, so but you don't know that. You don't know that personally.
No,
okay,
I can't comment on that as fact. Right. You know, and it'd be wrong for me to even say anything as factual on that.
Understood.
All that I know is that this is a very demanding business. You're on the road anywhere from 200, 250 to 300 days a year, not counting personal appearances. That's different cities every night. I know for a fact, and knowing Chris, we had talked about it, myself being a family guy, he had expressed to me in the past he'd like to have more time off. Every top guy has. But, you know, on the other hand, you got the promotion who's paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop your character. You can't get a day off. You know, if it was 15 years ago, you know, you say in the olden days, but in 15 years ago, if you wanted a day off, you would just take it. The promoter didn't want to give it to you, you would just take it off anyway, and they'd had to deal with it. Now, you have one big dog in town. You have one boss. You have one company. You know, something needs to change. Let
me ask you just a question, and this is the question everyone's been asking, and look, you knew the guy. Right. Well, was he taking steroids?
You know, I can't say I've physically ever seen him take a steroid. But you know, and you look at the common man next to you, not everybody was built like Chris Benoit. Not every, you know, I mean, it takes a lot of hard work. It's like saying, you know, some baseball player took steroids and you still got to hit a baseball going 105 miles an hour. I'm not pro, I'm not con, anything. All that I'm saying is we have to look at the bigger picture here. Yeah. There definitely needs to be a governing body in our sport. You got it in baseball, you got it in football, you got it in other things. There has to be something that these guys, you know, we all see that they're sound in body, but they all got to be sound in mind. We have to do something to take care of these athletes. We can't afford to lose any more Benoits, Guerreros,
and the numbers of wrestler deaths is stunning. Let me ask you to hold on for a second. We've got a statistic that we'll show on the other side of this break about this issue of how many wrestlers are dying out there. But take a quick break. Well, I guess we'll show it now. There it is, just the unbelievable number of wrestlers who've died, young wrestlers as well, killed by heart attacks, some by steroid use, some other drugs. We'll talk about all of that in a minute. We'll talk more about the investigation as well. Also coming up, Road Warrior, he knew Chris Benoit for 20 years. We're also joined by Dr. Todd Schlipstein, a sports medicine rehab physician and steroid expert at New York University Medical Center. Thanks to both of you for coming back. All right, Joe, before the break, we were talking about this issue of wrestler deaths. We were talking about this issue of steroids. You know, let's assume for a moment that he had taken some steroids. Let me ask you, have you taken steroids ever?
You know, that's really not a question for me to answer. You know, I'm not denying it, and I'm not going to say yes. Okay. You know, whenever I did anything, it was always legal prescription. I would never, you know, black market's ridiculous. Right. You're taking an awful chance on your body, and you know.
Based on what
I'm all for heart.
Based on what you know then about steroids, what do you make of the possibility that this might have been sort of roid rage, as they're calling it, that Benoit acts out based on his overuse of steroids?
You know, that is so, to me, I've seen roid rage, and to me, I think it's a crock what O'Reilly's doing and everybody else trying to get these ratings on and calling it roid rage and everything else. I've never seen a 48-hour roid rage. Most roid rages I've seen have been 5 minutes, and they're blown. Oh, I'm sorry for blowing up, and that's it. You know, and when something like that happens, it's definitely overuse where your blood pressure's up and you're blowing a cork. You know, and I just think there's so many contributing factors. It's more than roid rage, which causes an individual. I've seen Chris with his son Daniel. Chris loved that little boy. There's something else psychologically that happened to have him flip out and blow his cork like that and do what he did. You just can't blame it on steroids.
Doctor, let me ask you about his son. At 6'10", he calls, the WWE calls him. He says he has a family emergency and he won't make it to an event. Joe, bottom line is when you're not showing up to a big WWE event, it better be a pretty big deal, right?
Well, you better have a good reason or your butt's getting canned, you're going to get fired. You know, my brother is vice president of operations for the WWE, my brother John. And once I heard of this horrific situation, I called him and said, man, what's going on? He said, man, all that I know is that some of the guys and my brother himself had got text messages saying, you know, this is my new address. The dogs are out on the deck. The side garage door is open. Just plain one-liners like that didn't make any sense and were so unlike Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit, you understand, in the ring was the most detailed guy and the ultimate professional in his life. Every time we saw his family around, he was phenomenal dad. This just totally blows me away. And I agree with the doc, man. You know, if you're a person that has depression in your system or depression in your background and your family's background and you're taking another substance that's going to alter that or heighten that state, you're a ticking time bomb. And that's why in our business, that's why I got to say, man, there has to be a body that's got to, you know, the wellness program with the WWE is phenomenal. It's only the first step, though.
We hear you.
There has got to be more psychological stuff.
Joe Laurinaitis, thanks a lot for taking the time. We appreciate it. And Dr. Todd Schlipstein, thank you very much.